dice. This is it. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Campanella talking baseball.
The grand salami.
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
Welcome to Fed Up, the #1 podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll. We are at the quarter pole already in the season. Some teams having as many as 7 games in, like the Lakeville Lobos. Some teams only having 1, like the Waconia Islanders. But the majority of you are sitting around that 4 or 5 game mark. And so we are calling this episode the official quarter point of the season. And rather than doing our typical scoreboard recap with many teams off for the Memorial Day holiday, I thought it'd be worthwhile to take a look at the standings, see how they are shaping up this early in the season, see what teams are emerging as potential contenders in their respective division, what teams are not measuring up to the preseason hype. But I also thought it would be worth looking at a couple of individual performances as well, some guys who are off to hot starts, who may factor into not only the postseason, but the MVP voting as well. We've also got a really exciting guest. Excited to bring Kris Minor of the South Metro Saints on as well today. Really enjoyed being able to catch up with the man who is responsible for creating so much of that great content that we are seeing splash across our X feeds. So Kris Minor will join us later, and super excited about that interview. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and start with our game of the week. This one features the Minnetonka Mustangs taking on the Tonka Bay Lakers over at Big Willow. The Mustangs did get a run in the top half of the first, an unearned run without the benefit of the hit, and that certainly becomes important later on in the game. But Tonka Bay adds a run in the bottom half of the first to tie it and takes the lead in the second with another run before Brandon Bartholomew hit a 2-run RBI double in the fourth, opening up the game a little bit. The Tonka Bay Lakers did add 2 more runs to take a 6-1 lead, but it was the pitching that was the story for this one for the Tonka Bay Lakers. Brandon Wolf got the start. He went 4 innings, did give up that 1 unearned run, but struck out 6 in that 4 innings, did not allow a hit. Tom Arnold kept it going with 2 more innings of hitless baseball, and Jim Brower closed the door for the first no-hitter of the season, a combined no-no from the Tonka Bay Lakers as they beat the Minnetonka Mustangs 6-1. Looking at some individual contributors on the season, we can start with the Week 5 Fed Players of the Week. Nick Rathman on that list. He went 6 of 8 with 3 doubles, 3 RBI, 5 runs scored, and 4 stolen bases. The Lobos had a busy week in Week 5, going 3-0, certainly led by Rathman. Tom Corcoran had a Tom Corcoran-ish weekend. He went 3 for 4 with 2 home runs, knocked in 3, and scored 3 runs himself. Matt Johnson for the Grays had a game to remember as he went 3 for 4 with a pair of doubles, 5 RBI, and 2 runs scored. Mike Fritz did it from both sides of the plate for the Rosemount Pipers as he went 4 for 4, scored 3 times, also got the win with a complete game and struck out 4. John Novak continues to swing a hot bat for the St. Anthony Norsemen. He went 3 for 4 last week with 2 doubles and 3 RBI. Eric Steinoff for Vesely gets a big win, a complete game with a shutout. No walks in that effort and struck out 8. And then Derek Pfeffer, celebrating his 40th birthday, gets a big win, a complete game, allowed just 1 run with 8 strikeouts, also went 2 for 6 from the plate with a pair of doubles. Shifting our focus back to the teams, let's go ahead and take a look at the standings in each of the divisions and see how they're shaping up, starting in the American League North. The Minoka Grays have a commanding lead in this one as they lead by a game and a half over the St. Michael Angels. The Grays are 4-1, just a 1 stumbling block against the South Metro Saints. Not a lot of games played in the rest of this division. St. Michael just 1-1. Capital City does have 6 games in. They're just 2-4 on the season. Both Red West and Minneapolis Bombers looking for their first wins at 0-3 and 0-4, respectively. No surprises in the American League North, so to speak. We'll move on to the American League East. The Mammoth and the Groupers both remain unbeaten. The Mammoth 4-0, the Groupers 3-0. Something we'll have to give, though, in that standings because there's a double header scheduled between these two teams on June 1st. First pitch at 1 o'clock in the first game, second game immediately following. Both those games will be at First National Bank Field of River Falls. South Metro Saints lurk just behind those teams at 4-2, ready to pick up the pieces from whoever were to stumble in that doubleheader. St. Croix Valley Silverbacks at just 1-2, and the RC Rockets pulling up the rear in that division at 1-3. In the American League South, the Burnsville Bulldogs have found their way after losing their opener. They sit now at 4-1, tied atop with the Hastings Hurricanes, as their initial campaign in the Federal League is going just about as well as they had that planned. The Milltown Outlaws are at 2-2, Webster Wildcats at 1-1, the Northfield Millers at 0-4. The Millers in those 4 games have scored just 2 runs and giving up 19. Plenty of time in the season for the Millers to right the ship, but they need to find that offense quickly. Another team that needs to find offense quickly in the National League East, the Apple Valley A's. This podcast had the A's predicted at 15-3. That already has fallen through, as the A's are now 1-4 on the season, scoring just 10 runs in their 5 games. They have a chance to bounce back Friday as they take on the St. Croix Valley Silverbacks. Atop that division is the Rosemount Vipers. They're 4-1 with the St. Anthony Norsemen just a half game back. The Norsemen have been getting some great pitching out of Adam West, who has returned this season, as well as Steve Janke. It's early in the season for the JTs as they just sit at 1-1, but the Senators do pull up the rear in that division, sitting at 1-5. Hopping back over to the American League in the West, the Waconia Islanders sit on top of that division at 1-0, but it's a virtual tie with the Rockford Rail Splitters, who are sitting at 4-1. The Rail Splitters have scored 56 runs in their 5 games. The Bats are on fire. The Chaska Voyagers sit at 2-3, while the Eden Prairie Flyers and the Chaska Diamonds both looking for their first wins at 0-3 and 0-4, respectively. In the National League South, we mentioned those Lakeville Lobos a few times. They sit at 7-0 atop that division. They have scored 69 runs and allowed just 4. The pitching has been fantastic. Erdahl, Meyer, certainly been bright spots for them. Steinberg and manager Torrey Holt is off to a fantastic start in the season. Holt is 10 of 15 with 3 extra base hits, hitting .667. Nick Rathman right there alongside of him, hitting .615. I mentioned those stable of arms. They have a team ERA of 0.33. Everyone has looked good up and down the lineup. They've added Austin Mitchell and Don Erdahl doing what Don Erdahl does. If the Lobos can get Matt Meyer healthy and get him back and contributing, it is going to be tough to knock them from the top spot in our power rankings. Right on their heels is the Newmarket Northerns. They sit at 4-1. Those 2 teams will meet on June 9th for the first time, with a second game scheduled for July 11th. Certainly a lot left to decide there in that division between those 2 teams. The rest of the division is struggling just a little bit. The Elko Chuggers sit at 1-4. The Vesely Vulcans 1-5. Their run differential is -44. And the Lonsdale Jokers are 0-4 to start the season with a run differential of -24. The National League West Tonka Bay Lakers have adjusted nicely to the Federal League. They are sitting at 4-0. They've allowed just 11 runs in those 4 games. Their pitching has certainly been the reason for much of their success. The Metro Loons have won 4 games as well. They've stumbled a few times, but sit at 4-2. The Minnetonka Saints, 2-2, right behind, tied with the TC Snappers, also 2-2. The Minnetonka Mustangs, I think they're off to a great start this season. They are 2-3 on the year, but certainly a couple of great wins underneath their belt already. Look for them to potentially play spoiler as that division, the battle for Big Willow, gets sorted out. Break in the action for Memorial Day. We are going to forego the power rankings for this week. We'll be back next week with another edition of our Fed Up Power Rankings. But now it's time to bring on our guest for this episode. His team, the South Metro Saints, were just featured in this month's edition of the Baseball Digest. Lars mentioned they are the only team in the Federal League history to have beaten the East Metro Mammoth, the Minoka Grays, and the Lakeville Lobos. They are the South Metro Saints. They are off to a hot start this season, already at 4-2. One of the key contributors for them on the field is Kris Minor, but he certainly adds a lot to the experience off the field as well. Let's bring him on. We are joined now by Kris Minor of the South Metro Saints. Kris, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on. Welcome to Fed Up.
Hey, happy to be here, Josh. Been a big fan of what you've been doing and the initiative you've been kind of behind to get some exposure out there, just something for us guys that have nothing better to do to look forward to. So I appreciate all the work you put into this.
Well, I appreciate the kind words and
Mhm.
appreciate you listening, but I would tell you that they carry a lot more weight coming from you because some of the stuff that you guys are cranking out is absolutely just gold. I love seeing some of the shorts that you've done. I'm going to share my all-time favorite right off the bat here, and it was the from a matchup where we took on you guys, and you did the Billy Madison dodgeball sequence for us.
Yeah. No, yeah.
And it was an all time favorite of mine. Maybe I'll even I'll edit that in here, but for other people to rewatch and enjoy. But I absolutely just
Sure.
had to rewatch it 100 times.
I mean, a lot of this takes the seeds are planted in the winter time when you have nothing to do and you're on the couch there might be a basketball game on or something. So you're scrolling Twitter, um, TikTok perhaps, and then you're unwinding however you unwind. And then, you just see certain things. You're like, oh, I'm going to remember that. Maybe I can do something with that. So there was a point last year when we did that one. I mean, that was probably the longest one I did. That was like a little mini series, it felt like, but I'm like, golly, this kind of outlines your journey, right? And to that point. So I thought it was kind of funny. And then at the same time, I was like, man, I'm doing kind of a lot of cool hit or pip pieces for our opponents. But, it's just all that's the point, just to get people engaged and just at least looking forward to something aside from your day-to-day BS.
Well, and you certainly do that. It is so enjoyable and so fun to see, and such high quality too. So, talk to me a little bit about. So, you mentioned a little bit of some of your creativity, but talk to me about your process. Like, you mentioned, some of the off season, some of the ideas that come to you, but do you sit and you get away and do you have a spot that you can kind of go to kind of reflect and channel some of this? And then when you're out and about and you get an idea, do you just make a note in your phone? Just talk to me a little bit how it all comes together for you.
So you know how like real cool guys maybe will have a slam list on their phone, like if they think of a jab or something. That's kind of like the what goes into it for me. Like if I'm at Target and I, see dude struggle, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll usually jot it down. I used to carry a little notebook, but that's kind of intrusive with skinny jeans and all that these days. But yeah, that's kind of it. It was, you bookmark all these ideas, and to be honest, like there were points during the first 2 years we were doing this where I get ahead of the game. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna prep these, and but now I feel like I work better under pressure. So it's usually a thing the night before or 2 nights before, whenever I have kids at home and all this stuff. So it's just like every now and then I'll have to look at the schedule. I'm like, what night can I do the teaser that 20 people are gonna like? It's a big part of my evening. Even my wife knows, oh, you got to do a video tonight. So, but yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, usually it's try to make it something that's relatable, whether it's a Saints thing or if it has something to do with the opponent, or maybe on a particular night it might just be the easiest route for me to get one done. So it's a mixed bag. So when you get people engaged and liking the stuff, it's always rewarding.
So talk to me about the parking lot report. How did that come together? What's your role in it? Obviously, we know Eric Hill is the face of it, and he does a great job of keeping us entertained with some of your teammates and even opponents. But talk to me a little bit about what your role in is in all of that. Are you doing the editing and the video work there?
One of the guys who actually got me into this league was Pat Ralston from the Mammoth or
Yeah.
the Bullies.
Yep.
And I played co-ed D-League softball with him, right? And it fulfilled whatever void was there, just a little get out there, swing it, throw it around a little bit. But I've known him for years, and he would always allude to, hey, you might be interested in this 35 plus, whatever. Um, so he's the one who got me into it. But during this, kind of just co-ed D-League softball, I just randomly just started doing because they had a Facebook page. I'm like, all right, let's just do a post-game interview, and just Pat would spout nonsense, whatever. It had nothing to do with nothing. And then at the end of the game, or at the end of the year, I'd put together a cut, of all of it, and just for fun. So that was kind of where it came from. We brought it forward in the our little arena here, and so basically that's kind of what it was. We didn't know what we were doing when we got started, just kind of threw the camera on, and it happened to be after a rain out on Cinco de Mayo when we were doing tequila shots during the rain delay, and then they tried to bring us back. So we were nice and loose already, right? And then that was kind of the genesis. Eric and Wes freestyle, and then we kind of go from there. And then we have some ideas moving forward on kind of things to add or whatever. So we'll see if that all materializes. But it's fun thing to do. Hopefully people like it.
You guys had a crown jewel pinnacle moment a few weeks ago with the parking lot report. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yes, I do. Back to you.
Tell us about it. Tell us about how did that get started, and then talk to us about what it just meant to the whole parking lot report crew to get that recognition.
Sure. Well, backstory is it was a throw-in line at the end of the very first parking lot report during that Bombers rainout I just was alluding to, and Eric just tossed it in at the end, and I was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna leave it in there, and so it's like, okay, let's just do it every time, and then you just kind of we wouldn't tweet at her or anything, and feel like, okay, you're trying a little bit here, right? And so don't want to be those guys. Just be like, oh, sneak it in there. Maybe somebody will notice someday, right? And so that's kind of how it started, and it became basically the sign off. And then going into the beginning of this year is like, we haven't, never, but we'll just keep doing it. But this year, let's raise
And
this.
for those who don't know what it is, tell us what the sign off is, and
Sorry, just buried the lead there. So, Eric Hill at the end of his first parking lot report, the pilot episode, if you will, his throw-in line at the end, just didn't know what was coming. He just goes, "Back to you, Marty." And then I like took the camera. That was kind of cool. Like, yeah, do that, And so, we've been putting it on every single one. Last year's lot reports were tough because we started out so slow, so it was kind of like, you can imagine. So it's been a lot more fun this year. So we loosened up a bit, and we're like, okay, let's just tag her in these tweets and just see if we can get any. Otherwise, we're gonna move on to Taylor Swift or something, and so and then she responded the other night, and it was basically just like all the hours and the time away from the kids and the wife and all that stuff. It just made it all worth it at that moment. And Marty's a legend. Everybody loves Marty in this town,
Absolutely.
So,
how can you not love Marty?
Yeah.
Yes, she is a legend, and super cool of her to give you guys that shout out and that recognition. I loved what she said too about every best sports reporter having a microphone in one hand and a beer in the other. Nice.
Well,
class act, nice gesture, good recognition.
She's very famously quoted as saying "God bless vodka" on the air once. So I'm sure. We know she's got that in her. So game recognized game, Marty. I got you.
I love it.
We better tag her in this too.
You mentioned the parking lot reports are a little bit more fun this year, and I want to talk about that hot start that you guys are off to. Obviously, we'll talk about the 4-0, the good side of the coin first. Had some magic, had some late inning wins. Talk to us a little bit about what is cooking in South Metro.
So 4-0. So going into the year, to be honest, you look at the schedule. We had you guys, right, and you figure Tim's going to be in there, whatever. So you see in Tim, you see Pluff from St. Michael, Minoka, and the Senators right there in between there. So you figure and then plus you move on to this last Sunday, the next two games, you see Derek Marks. So you're seeing top 5, 6, whatever pitchers in the first month of the year, right? So, and coming into it, you think, all right, if we can get out of this 500 or better, okay, good. Because last year we started like 0-4, right? So if we can survive the first month and then, kind of get our legs under us, that's great. Fortunate that I think it was a blessing to run into you guys early because Tim was cruising in that 3 inning. Fluff was, awesome as always. But one thing I like about the format here is we're getting to see St. Michael for the first time, and I don't know how since I've been on the team. So getting a little more exposure to different teams like St. Michael, who we were fortunate enough to pull one out against, had a pretty decent pitcher's duel there, and then also Minoka on Thursday. You haven't seen them in a few years. And I think we were fortunate enough to run into them on a night they didn't have Jack Nelson and a couple other guys, but it's a Thursday night in the Fed when we didn't have everybody. This is part of the deal, right? In
Yep,
this league,
absolutely.
so I mean, to come out of that 4-0, man, it was just like, all right, and don't get me wrong, we fully aware of the parity in this league at this moment, compared to 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It's insane. You can drop any game at any night. You run into the wrong pitcher, what have you. And that kind of lends itself to what happened this weekend. But yeah, no, it was really cool to kind of get off to that start with. I mean, we have a solid group of a really good mix. We have the legends that everybody knows, like Terry Knopf, Randy Comfort, and Jeff Knudsen, and but it's been nice for us guys that were off 6 to 10 years to get their second, third years under their belt. So okay, we work harder at the game now than we ever did when we were playing town ball, even, perhaps even college for some of us, because I know the college I played at was pretty loose. There wasn't a ton of structure, right? So, I mean, we're hitting all winter. We're renting a cage in April or, March and at 9 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? So, it's been cool to see that kind of materialize and get us in the mix at least. You know what I mean? And now we can see what happens. Through this remaining stretch. I think our schedule. I mean, given our staff, we have Shara, of course, who's been just taking a leap this year. And fun dude to hang out with too, by the way. You should probably talk to him one of these days. He's shy, but and then Conley's a bulldog, and he wears his emotion down his sleeve. So you got the yin and the yang, righty lefty, kind of different styles, but they complement each other very well. And then we got I mean, Cody Candler's getting on the mound this year. He's off 2 years off shoulder surgery and this and that. So Hank Henry actually was pretty solid against you guys for 1 inning. Fractured his ankle in warm-ups the other day, so he's out for a
Oh
little bit, but
no.
hopefully he's able to maybe come back towards the end of the year, so um everybody's always trying to grab a recruit, and get guys on their team always. I mean, to get more guys, it's awesome, especially to have options at this age. And but pitching is you can't just pull off, hey, there's a 40-year-old guy who pitches. Oh, and he's available in this league that has so many guys in this area. So we've kind of had to kind of develop from within to get guys, out there on the mound, see what works. And, so it's been kind of working out. Grant was recruited last year, and then we kind of filling in the holes from there.
A couple of things you hit on there that really resonated with me. First, uh, looking at first thing you can do when you see something that you might deem as an upset is go and look at the box score. All right, who is missing from this one and how legit is this kind of thing? But that's the truth of it is every team deals with that. And I feel like it's a nice safety blanket if you're the team who lost maybe a game that you shouldn't have to say, hey, we were missing this and this and this and this and this guy, but
Yeah,
if they were there, right? But the reality of it, the other team's probably dealing with the same thing, and certainly can't take anything away from a landmark win like you guys had against Minoka. Just
sure.
I for one was glad to see it. I love seeing the parity in this league. I don't think it's good for business when the Grays and the Mammoth and the Lobos are all going 18-0. So I like seeing those really strong teams at top, struggle with teams. And you
Mhm.
mentioned it as well, the parity in the league and how many good teams there are. There's 16, 20 teams in this league that can go out and beat anybody on any given night. And I just think it's great for the league and great for Fed Up.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people to talk about. I mean, you go division by division. I mean, I don't know two-thirds of the league, to be honest with you. That's why I'm glad you kind of doing this, just so you kind of see the other things. I mean, I've seen Matt Meyer throw in person when my first year with the Mammoth. It was my first year back in like 10 years, and on this Mammoth squad. I'm like, what the hell? Like this is what it is. I'm like, okay. But to be honest, the pitching at that point was two-thirds, not thumbers, but just a lot of you could get your bearings a little bit, and then all of a sudden you see this guy come in and taking his warm-up tosses straight in from the parking lot in the big game Lobos Mammoth, right? And I was like, what? What?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. But now you get a couple under you. Okay, now you kind of look forward to that. You know what I mean? It's like the competitor in you kind of takes over and wants that. And I think that's what we have with a bunch of the younger guys, if you want to call 43 and younger. But
Yeah.
I think we have that. So there's these matchup things. I think not only the parity in the league, but some teams just match up better with some teams. Like we have split with the Mammoth 2 years in a row. Now
Yeah.
they had a skeleton crew pretty much the first year, right? But it was a big deal for this club because it hadn't happened, right? And then the last year we had a really fun game with them, Conley versus Grill, and it was Emery Hull 3-run home run. I mean, it had a little bit of everything, but it's one of those games that takes you back to when you played town ball, right? And because it's I found that since joining this league 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, the spirit of competition and the anxiety and the pressure has ramped up like 150%, man. It's been crazy.
And Matt touched on a little bit last week in our episode. Just the level of competitiveness and the will to win. And you talked about it a little bit too. The pitchers you've seen in Pluff and Tim Scott and Jack Nelson, and then you throw in the guys we've seen with, Adam West and Derek Pfeffer, and these are a couple of these guys are coming back into the league. Pfeffer's new to the league.
Mhm.
It's so deep and so talented, and there's just not many easy nights out. And I'm so proud of what this league is and what the amateur scene is in Minnesota. It's good baseball, and anyone who wants to try and dismiss this as some
Yeah.
kind of D League softball league, they're just they're
Oh.
missing out. They got to come see and play it.
100%. I will say, like, even a team like which I feel terrible for, like Richfield's been such a benchmark organization in this whole thing, right? And to have the turnover and everything that happened with the behind the scenes and basically the persona there, right? Um, but they had some steam and they were getting younger. They have some younger guys coming in, and they have just a stud come in, and he's literally a guy that can take down the best team in the league on any given
Yeah,
night. And they have the guys that can put bats on the ball any given night. And so to have what happened to him at Hickory, or Colin Warren, what happened to him at Hickory last year was just sucked because he's a tremendous talent, first year in the league, and he got it. You talk to the
yeah.
guy for 2 seconds and he got it. He gets it. Like there's an edge, but it's a community once the game is over, right? And he was just one of the coolest guys to talk to last year. So I felt bad about that. But then you got like Hastings and something like expansion teams even have an ace. It sounds like they have something going on down there as far as arms go.
He's
So I
legit.
mean, yeah, so I mean, there there's not a lot of room to breathe anymore. I mean, you used to. I mean, this isn't an insult, but you used to. get a couple weeks off from time to time, and it just doesn't feel like that's happening that much anymore. But
Yeah.
so be it.
And you
Let's
could
ramp her
plan
up.
around those marquee matchups, and you could throw your ace in those. Make sure to have your guys show up, once every 3 weeks, and you could, skate through a schedule. But now you need some consistency, you need some depth, you need all of it to be able to compete on a regular basis and put together a solid run. So certainly the
I
start
will
that you
say,
guys
I
are off
think
to was impressive.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
will say the most important thing I think is guys our age, in most, if not all, have obligations here and there. So you are pulling away from something else. So it better be fun. So the first thing is to get in with a good group of guys that you jive with, and then it manifests itself from there, however it's going to do it. And we're just fortunate enough to, like the parking lot's the best part of the night. I mean, if you ask 80% of the guys, 90% of the guys, I bet you they'd say they look forward to after the game more than the game itself. Not even go around the league. I'm sure it's a common theme, right? So be fortunate. I mean, even when I joined the Mammoth, I was a stranger coming into that team, and for as talented as they were, and as kind of had no idea who I was, and who the hell is this guy, and why is he coming in here? Like, they couldn't have been cooler guys, man. It was awesome. Like, I just happened to learn after that I joined them that a bunch of my old buddies played in this league too. It wasn't as well known a few years ago as it is now. So, I think that's the main thing, though, is just surrounding yourself around people that are going to make it worth taking away from whatever other obligations you have with this time at this age, especially.
Absolutely. We've all got family, we've all got work, we've all got, priorities that we have to shift around and um to be able to do this, you want to do it with people with people you like and they become a little bit of your family too, and your wives get connected, your kids get connected and it just becomes yeah, an absolute uh top-notch experience when you're able to combine all of the things that you enjoy into doing something that you love.
Yeah, and I mean, especially me, I'm a transplant from northern Wisconsin, right? I have
Packer
friends down
fan?
here, but 100%. There's a flag outside. Yeah, there's another one
No,
next door too. So
yeah,
we got two in a row.
nobody's perfect. We found your flaw. That's all right.
And, um, but it's just like we're all kind of coming. Or I have friends down here, but when you have two little girls that are babies growing up, you kind of get pulled away from them, and they're all over the place. So, and then all of a sudden you start, and it just gives you. I mean, I've met the best guys, and we spend time away from the field. We spend time together. The wives spend time together. I stay in touch with a lot of the guys from the Mammoth yet, like Tommy and Casey and uh, all those guys, and so Pat, Bill, whatever, so just the community, it's been a blessing. Like you take a bunch of time off. In my case, like 10 years, and you're like, okay, A, you don't want to suck. B, you want to make it worth your while. You don't want to get hurt. Oh, is it worth it? And I'm glad I did it because it's led to so many, other things. Like, and so I think, but I owe 90% of my friends in life probably to the game of baseball in one level or the other. So, um, to be able to still be doing this and cultivating those new relationships and bonds and stuff has been a blessing, and it couldn't have been timed more perfect right around the time I turned 40. So it was midlife crisis time anyways.
Kris, I just want to take the time to thank you for your contributions to the league, the things that you are doing with the video content and on Twitter. Certainly add just a ton of uh, enjoyment to the experience overall. I love who you are as a person and as a player. Thank you for taking the time for being on Fed Up. Really enjoyed having you.
Stoli, you're one of the best guys I've met so far. I mean, and no, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, to be honest, I bet most of the guys that would watch this probably don't even know who I am. So I'm happy to be able to share a little bit about me and our squad. I will say, So you talk about the content and whatever. We do have uh some ideas in the hopper, right? And it doesn't wouldn't have to be necessarily a Saints thing, looking into some maybe behind the scenes kind of, this and that. So we can, look at it. See, I have a mic. I was thinking about doing some mic'd up, hopefully at one of the league tournaments, and do it
Oh,
with
that would be
like
awesome.
I get Nate Jackson on it or something. You know what I mean? Like I'll just go follow Jack's bombs around or Tomball Jesus
Sure.
around, and then he can just say what he's saying, and then
Uh,
you can just do like Federal League films, NFL films. You won't be able to know the difference. So it's just there's things out there.
yeah, there
Yeah,
was some good banter between Sorny and Pluff about some mid-play conversations going on some of his pitches. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
would enjoy a mic'd up segment. I mean, that could be that depending on who you targeted with that could be pretty enjoyable.
I mean, I think across the league you have a wide spectrum of personalities. You got diehards, you got go-hards, right? And then you got the guys that are just trying to survive. So, I mean, it'd be
Like you and
amusing
I.
every way. Yeah, exactly. So, like, I mean, it might be a thing out to, somebody on each team, like, hey, who'd be cool to just throw a mic on for a day? You know
Sure.
what I mean? Maybe we can make it happen. And then, you know, do their flowers for being entertaining. You know what I mean? Just give them something to brag about to their friends. I don't know. If anyone's out there is feeling squirrely, wants to talk shop about, potential, content stuff, just
Yeah.
to be, just feel free to reach out, DM the Saints Twitter account, and maybe we'll see what's what, but happy to keep doing stuff, and help's always awesome. Other ideas are always awesome. It's just build on this team, because it's, at the end of the day, it's just something for us to do, right? So happy to do anything or look at any kind of ideas somebody might have.
Love having you. Love having you part of the league. Thanks again, Chris.
You bet. Take care, man.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Fed Up. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with an all new scoreboard recap, an all new Fed Up power rankings, and an exciting guest as we prepare for the Federal League All Star game in Chaska. Until next time, back to you, Marnie.
You're out! Doyle rules!
Billy, what are you doing back?
I'm out.
Well, that just means you stay off to the side until a new game starts.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm kind of tired anyways. I'll just sit here and color or something.
Billy, dodgeball time is a special time. Not just for you boys and girls, but for Miss Lippy, too. So stay outside.
Now you're all in big, big trouble. Don't be a winner, boy, and move on.